Right, hello everybody, and welcome back to episode 4 of the Proud Terriers show. Thank you to everyone for their support. Since we relaunched the channel, and obviously, just for your general support on social media, it really does mean a lot to us. This past week has been the Football v Transphobia campaign. I just want to say that obviously we at Proud Terriers are dedicated in creating a welcoming environment for all trans and non-binary people, and we do stand in support of them all. And like I say, we recognise, in the LGBTQ plus community that there is different challenges. We face similar ones, but we're all at different stage. And I think that trans people, it's more difficult for them than it is for someone like me, for example. It's still difficult for me because but it's more challenging. Like I say, if you want to head over to the FVH Tweets Twitter page, there is loads of content on there that's been shared over the past week. We've tried to post our fair share of those. There's also podcasts that you can listen to, and it's really, what I was finding when I was listening to them, it's a real education. It's really inspiring to hear these stories from other people that are really, trying to make a difference themselves as well. Like I said, we've shared as much as we can on our social media pages too, so you can head over there and check out some content over there as well. It's really important. So yeah, let's get going then. So I'm absolutely delighted to be joined this evening by club legend Andy Booth. Andy has been so supportive since day one when I set the group up, and like I said, I can't tell you how much that means to me. To have one of my heroes ultimately backing what I'm doing. It's been a true honour to be able to build this partnership with yourself, Andy, and with the club as well. Any ideas we've had, I've always felt like you've gone above and beyond to try and make these things happen for sure. And some really special memories that stick in my mind is for sure. Being able to meet the town players, being in the programme, which is amazing, with you, Andy, on stage with the Q&A kind of style thing, if you remember a few years ago. And having the flag in our stadium too was a truly big thing for me. And like I say, everyone at the club and yourself, your team has been amazing to make that dream a reality. And like I say, I think the thing that means the world to me the most is that, your support, Andy, and the team at Supporter Services. And the club's support overall has been truly special to me. A club that I've followed all my life. My hometown team, and I can't speak highly enough of you all for helping me in this journey and supporting me. So yeah, welcome to the show, Andy, and thank you so much for being here this evening.
No, thank you, Ryan, and thank you for that build up. We're honoured to work with you, Ryan. We've been working together. What now? 5 6 years, I bet, and we and I can remember me, you, and Evan and Robin Mitchell, who I work with, meeting all them years ago and starting this process. And you look from where we were back then and where you've got to now. It makes us really proud, Ryan. You've done an absolute fantastic job, and it's not been easy for you because at times you've been by yourself, but you've built it. And over these last couple of years, you're doing a brilliant job. So keep up the good work. We really are proud of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So first of all, this evening we're going to talk a bit about Andy's career, and like a Q&A style, and then we're going to just look ahead to how the season's gone as a whole for Huddersfield, and looking ahead to our remaining fixtures for the season. So yeah, so let's get things going. Like I say, that I've always got loads of questions for you, Andy, so please bear with me, and we've got questions from the viewers as well. So I think the perfect way to start is that what did your journey into football look like, and how did it all start for you, basically, and how did you always growing up, did you always know that you wanted to be a footballer? How did it all come about?
Yeah, well, it's a long time ago now, Ryan. But yeah, I always wanted to either be a footballer or cricketer. In the winter, obviously, I love playing football, and I played for my school team, my junior team. And then in the summer, it was all cricket. Played for my local, obviously again, my school, my local junior cricket club. And I played for Huddersfield in football, and I played for Huddersfield at cricket. And then played at Yorkshire for cricket, and I've probably got to admit I was probably a better cricketer than I was a footballer. And there came a point where I think it was under 14s. I was playing for Yorkshire cricket, and it looked like my career. Well, I'd hoped my career was going to head to cricket. Sorry, and unfortunately, I came to the trials. I got to the third trial, and I didn't get into the Yorkshire for the under 15s. And the reason was because I weren't tall enough. I was a late developer, and I never grew. So when I was nearly 15, I was still one of the smallest in the class. So Yorkshire, unfortunately, got rid of me, rejected me. So that, looking back, it was probably the best decision could have happened, and that made me concentrate on football. And I was, as I say, I was at Huddersfield Town at the time, but unfortunately, about 3 or 4 months later, I got rejected from Huddersfield. Huddersfield, they called all the lads in, and there were some lads who was on what is called schoolboy forms, but they not asked me to sign them. So I was just training with Huddersfield, but not signed with them. And then it was a Gordon Lowe who was obviously an ex-Huddersfield Town player, came down with Dennis Lord all them years ago. So quite a well-known figure at the club. Called the ones who hadn't signed in to say, unfortunately, we've got enough schoolboys, so we're going to let you all go. We're going to release you. Thank you for all your help. But unfortunately, we've got a batch of juniors for this season. So obviously, I was gutted. In less than 5-6 months, I'd been rejected by Yorkshire Cricket. I'd finished. I'd my plan to play cricket. Hopefully, gone to play cricket as a career and gone. And then 3 months down the line, Huddersfield had released me as well. So, but looking back, it made me more determined. It took me a couple of weeks to get over it, and I've got to admit, I was upset and dejected, and thought my world had come to an end. What do I do? But obviously, I was still doing my schoolwork. I wouldn't say I was great at school, but I always knew how important my education was. So I always worked at school, so I knew I always had that to fall back on. But I thought, right, I'm going to prove people wrong. I couldn't do anything about my height, so the cricket thing had gone until I grew. So I went to Doncaster Rovers. I went to Derby County, Blackburn Rovers. Unfortunately, they didn't want me. The only team that wanted me was Scarborough. I went to Scarborough, who had just come into the Football League then, and they offered me a contract, a schoolboy contract, with a term as an apprentice after. So that was my only option. I wanted to get into football, and it was my first chance of getting on the first rung of the ladder. So I was about to sign at Scarborough on the Saturday morning. Friday night came, I got a phone call, and it was Jerry Murphy. Obviously, we all know Jerry Murphy. Jerry then was just helping George Mullall out as an academy. It was like, well, it was an apprenticeship in the YTS scheme, but it was academy back then. And Jerry was like running the younger lads. And he rang me up and he said, Andy, we've been watching you for the last 8 months. We've been watching you, how you're developing. You won't know it, but we've been sending scouts to your junior matches. We're really impressed, and we know you're going to sign for Scarborough tomorrow morning, and we just can't let that happen. And we want to offer you a schoolboy forms. So obviously, I'm a Huddersfield lad. I support Huddersfield all my career, and I didn't have to think about it. And it didn't take me minutes to decide. I just shouted at my dad, said, "Look, it's Huddersfield Town. It's Jerry. You want me to sign?" And no lie, in space of an hour, Jerry had come up to my house and had signed my contract. Obviously, let Scarborough know. So I look back at that night, and sometimes stuff are meant to be, and you're thinking, if Jerry hadn't rung me then, I'd have gone to Scarborough. I wouldn't be definitely not where I am today, and I wouldn't have had a career in football. So I'd been obviously rejected, but in the end, it all turned out right for me. So then I played schoolboys, and then got an apprenticeship, and had 2 years apprenticeship, making my way into the first team.
Right, wow, that sounds really, yeah. You had your fair share of rejections, but you kept going, and like I say, that's really like kind of inspiring to hear that that you, even though you did get rejected on a few occasions, you still kept going, and you worked hard, and you got your rewards eventually. So that's really amazing to hear that story for sure. So obviously, moving further on now about obviously making your Huddersfield Town debut. It must have been a complete dream come true, like you say, and like being a local lad, it obviously mean a lot more. I know that when you're a fan, you kind of feel that when you're a local lad, you can really. It means more. The club is part of you, so it kind of means more. I hope you understand what I'm saying. But how did that feel, that moment? When you made your debut for the first team.
It's, as you said, that's what you dream of. You're a local lad, born and bred in Huddersfield. I supported Huddersfield as a kid. My mum and dad worked on the turnstiles, so I grew up with Huddersfield. So to get me chance and play in the first team, and I know it's easy, but it's every boyhood's dream, and that's the same with me. And I was lucky enough to do it for my hometown team. And yeah, I've got to admit, it came as a surprise. We were playing at Fulham. Down at Craven Cottage, and I didn't know I was going to be substitute that day. Owen and Ian Ross were the managing coaches then, and usually I was an apprentice. I was still a second-year apprentice, and what happens sometimes is the apprentices, if they're not staying overnight in a hotel, sometimes the apprentices got chosen to go and carry the skips, put the kits out, make sure all the boots were ready, and I just thought they were asking me that day I thought I've got to admit, they didn't used to ask them down in London. So I've got to admit, alarm bells did think, well, it's a bit far for usually asking apprentices to go. And one thing he did say was, make sure you pack your boots. So really that should have been a bit of an inkling that I might have been on the bench, but I never thought of it. It was just something you didn't think about. I thought, right, I'm going to look after the first team. So all the way down, I'm making teas and coffees for all the players. I never sat down when you're on a 4-hour journey, but you're the youngest lad on the coach, so that's what you did. Helped with all the skips, carried all the skips in, put all the shirts and kit out for the team, and then Owen, Andy, and Ross came in and said, "Right, sit down, lads," and named the team. And number 30, 14, 12, whatever it was, well, I was Andrew then, Andrew Booth, and I wasn't even listening for my name, and I'm thinking, did he say my name there? So it just came out an absolute. I only knew about an hour and a half before kickoff. So obviously I didn't have time to be nervous. So straight away got stripped, and I came on. I thinking about the 69th minute for Ify Anura. So it was me and Ewan Roberts up front, and I think it ended up 0-0. It was a dire game, and I never got a chance for the last 20 minutes. But just to be on there, just to be playing in the first team, it's something I'll never forget.
That's really great to hear how how it made you feel. Because like I say, I didn't actually see you towards the start of your career because obviously I was quite.
You wanted them, right?
but obviously I remember you, in your second spell at the club, obviously. But we'll get onto that in a bit. But obviously you had a really good time, to start your first spell off. You stayed at the club for a good few years, and then you moved to Sheffield Wednesday now. Obviously, with Sheffield Wednesday being quite a rival to Huddersfield, was it quite difficult to move to a club, deemed as a rival, and also a bit, how did that move come about? Like, where was you in terms of your career at that point? Because obviously, I kind of feel like I'm surprised that Huddersfield let you go, kind of thing.
Yeah, I was ready to go. To be honest, it was. They were Premier League clubs were all watching me. There were a couple. There were me and Nicky Foster at Brentford, and that's when the Premier League teams signed players from the lower leagues. So for the last 2 years, there were rumours Liverpool were watching me. Roy Evans, the Liverpool manager, had been watching me for about 12 months. Crystal Palace offered £2 million, and the club rejected it, which is unbelievable for where Huddersfield was back then. I think the record before was like a transfer would have been probably about 300,000, maybe Ewan Roberts. So to turn down £2 million was a massive transfer fee for the club. But it was Neil Warnock who turned that down because he knew if I went to London, I weren't ready for London. I'd have probably got lost down there, and I'm a Yorkshire lad, as everybody knows, Huddersfield born and bred. So for me to go down to London, he thought it wasn't the right move. So to be fair to Neil, he had my interest at heart. But then Sheffield Wednesday came on, and I know you said there was rivals. They weren't really back then. Sheffield Wednesday were always in the Premier League, so we'd not really played them. Obviously, we'd all know as rivalries, Leeds, Bradford. So Sheffield Wednesday weren't really a rival, and when I found out, obviously that they were interested, the club had accepted a £2.7 million bid, which was totally understandable, and it were perfect. It was perfect for everybody. It was half an hour from my house. It meant I could stay in Huddersfield. Sheffield Wednesday were a fairly similar club to Huddersfield, but just on a bigger scale. It's a family club, very family orientated. All the people behind the scenes were nice people, friendly people. So it was quite an easy move for me. It ticked all the boxes for me, and also for the club, obviously, in the transfer fee. So yeah, it probably pleased everybody. It worked for everybody. Sheffield Wednesday, myself, and Huddersfield. Like I said, there were no rivalry back then. They were always like a top Premier League club, and Huddersfield had not played them for probably 20, 30 years, maybe.
All right, okay. Like I say, it showed my inexperience at that back then, because I kind of thought that the rivalry between Sheffield Wednesday were kind of always there. But anyway, I've learned something new this evening. So, like I say, you spent a number of years at Sheffield Wednesday, and then a move on loan to Tottenham Hotspur happened. How did you find that experience? Even if it was, I know it was quite brief, wasn't it, that spell at Tottenham, but it must have been a really amazing experience for you.
Well, in the end, it was about 7 weeks, just under 2 months. It was supposed to be a month's loan, but by the dates of my transfer and the loan spell ended, it was about 2 months, and fantastic experience. It was 2 months were enough. I was glad to get back to Yorkshire. I was still at Sheffield then. The move came out of the blue. The only reason I went down there, David Pleat was director of football at Tottenham, and unfortunately, 4 of their big strikers were all injured, and they'd just bought a Ukrainian, Sergei Rebrov, who was only about 5'3", 5'4", so they needed a big lad to play with him. And there were Les Ferdinand, Chris Armstrong, Stefan Everson. They were all injured, so David Pleat obviously knew me. Got in touch with Sheffield Wednesday, asked if I'd be able to come down for the month's loan until Les Ferdinand. He would only about 2 weeks, 3 weeks until he came back anyway. So we were always going to be short term. Went down there, loved it. As I said, great experience for me. I didn't realise how big a club Tottenham Hotspur were. But then I think now, obviously, you class them as a top 4, top 6 club. Then they were mid-table, bottom half of the table, not really doing much, but you go in and you think this club should be doing more than what it's doing. It was the time Alan Sugar had I was there when Alan Sugar left the club, and then it started changing a little bit. But a great club, some fantastic players down there. Enjoyed my time, but 2 months were enough. I loved it, but it was nice to get back to Yorkshire.
Yeah, and then you came back to Yorkshire, and then I believe that you Huddersfield was interested in signing you again, and obviously, I bet you was really happy to hear that Huddersfield wants you to come back, because it kind of felt like that maybe it would be your club that you'd retire with, which obviously it was. So, how did that move to Huddersfield happen? Once you got back from Tottenham, obviously you went back to Sheffield Wednesday, and then. Was you kind of happy to? I know. Was you kind of? How did it come about the move back to Huddersfield? Basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No. Again, a little bit out of the blue. I always wanted to finish my career at Huddersfield, but I didn't think I would come back as soon as I did it. I think I was 27, 28 at the time. I was thinking probably finish my career 32, 33 at Huddersfield, but I got a phone call one Sunday morning, and it was Lou Macari. Just completely out of the blue. And Lou Macari was a person with not very many words, straight to the point. And he said, "Andy, it's Lou Macari here. How are you doing?" I said, "Fine, Lou, are you?" And he said, "Do you want to come back to Huddersfield?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I do, Lou. Yeah, that's fair enough. Leave it with me." And that was it. It was about a 2-minute conversation. And next morning, got called into Sheffield Wednesday. Peter Shreves and Terry Yorriff were the managers at Sheffield, and they called me in and said, obviously Huddersfield have been in touch, and at the time, obviously I'd just come back from Spurs, so they'd Paul Jewell had been sacked by the time I'd come back, so Terry Yorriff and Peter Shreves had taken over, and there were a slight chance we'll still maybe get in trouble of relegation, and they said, we can't let you go. We've just got you back. We can't let you go until we're safe. But he says, in the next couple of games, if we can get a couple of wins, we'll let you go. And to be fair, we got a couple of wins, and Peter Shreves and Terry Yorriff were good to the word. He says, go, you can go now, go and talk to Huddersfield. And obviously, I signed on that transfer deadline day, which again came out of the complete blue. But when I found out Huddersfield wanted to sign me, it weren't a difficult decision. It was, yeah. Oh, let's get the job done at Sheffield, and then let's get back home.
Nice. I'm going to switch to some questions from the viewers now. Someone in Instagram asks, "What was your pre-match routine? Did you have a routine before a match, or what did that look like for you?"
The pre-match routine was this, especially when we played at home. When you play away, it's a little bit different because you're in a hotel. You can only you have the food that gets provided. But mine at my home was I'd get up about 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning. I'd have a little bit of breakfast, toast and a fresh orange juice, and then about 10:30 I'd go for the walk. I'd probably have like an hour walk. Even if it were pouring down in the middle of winter, I'd go for an hour's walk just to get my head freshened up, get my legs going, and then 11:30 I come back from my pre-match meal, and I always had chicken and beans. Chicken and beans were my pre-match meal, and 2 slices of toast and a pint of water or something. And the reason I had chicken and beans was my first ever game. Football Focus were on, and Alan Shearer was on Football Focus, and they asked him what he ate for his pre-match meal, and his answer was chicken and beans. And my mum saw that, so my very first game, she says, "Well, if it's good enough for Alan Shearer, it's good enough for Andy Booth." So she made me chicken and beans, and for 20 years I always had chicken and beans, and I was absolute sick to death of it at the end of it, and I don't think I've ever had it since, and I don't think I want it again. So I'd have, as long as I had chicken and beans, and then got to the game. I've got to admit, there was a time where I used to go the same route going to the games, and I because there were a bit of roadworks, I had to change my route, and I scored a hat-trick that game. So then I got it in my head, thinking, well, if I go a different route every game, then I might score a hat-trick every game. So there were times where I'd be going completely the opposite direction to the stadium from my house, just to sort of go completely different routes. But then I realised when I wasn't scoring hat-tricks every game, or I'd not scored, I thought, this is getting ridiculous. And it's all psychological. It's all up there. And then when you realise you don't need to have as many superstitions, so I just got back. And then during the game, before the game, I always liked to go out third in the tunnel, which was quite good because not many people wanted to go out third. A lot of them liked to go out last. So there were times where players were practically arguing to go out to be the last one, but it always fell for the senior player. The senior player always had seniority, and they always went out last.
So yeah, I think a lot of players seem to be quite superstitious. It's kind of a thing that all gets to us sometimes. So it's interesting to hear your kind of story into that. Obviously, I forgot to mention the number that you got at Huddersfield, 23. Was it a special number to you, or was it just a number that you was designated with when you first came, or did it have some extra significance to you? Was it, what? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, number 2. Well, when I first came back, I was number 32, and the reason that was Chris Holland had number 23, and I wanted 23. So obviously the nearest number 23 is 32 backwards. And a lot of people, if you look at a lot of the big stars like David Beckham, Michael Owen, I think had it, a lot wear 23 because it was Beckham copied it off Michael Jordan. Is it LA Lake or the basketball? I'm not sure. So David Beckham copied it off Michael Johnson. That's where the number 23 originates. That's why a lot of players wear 23. But the reason I wanted number 23 was I liked playing roulette. So I liked going to casinos and playing roulette, and 23 were my lucky number. So I always went on 23. So that's why I wanted number 23 shirt. So obviously when I first, and my second number was 32. So I waited till Chris Holland left, and I got the number 23 shirt. But saying that, looking back, I don't know why I put it on, because it never used to come in the casino. So I said it was my lucky number. It was probably my most unluckiest number. So I don't know why I had it on the back of my shirt.
Yeah, interesting. A question from Sam again. What was your favourite moment as a town player? I know you've probably got quite a lot, because you was pretty much at the club for pretty much most of your career, and also as a supporter as well. So yeah, kind of break that up into two sections if you wish.
Yeah, me as a player, there's probably two. My last ever game down at Leighton Orient, where I scored my last ever goal, my 150th for the football club. That was a special day. I couldn't have asked for how it went. My son was with me, Lee Clark. Let me take my son with me, who at the time was about 5-year-old. So he was sat on the bench. He was in the changing rooms. We were in the hotel at night. We were in all the team meetings. So to be able to share my last ever game with my son meant a lot to me. And for me to score my last ever goal in front of all the town fans that were down there in the celebrations, I couldn't. If I were writing, I couldn't have written. I couldn't have wrote it any better. To score my 150th goal, the last ever game, I finished it absolutely perfectly. It was just like, that's the perfect end to my Huddersfield career. But the game that stands out were playoff semi-final down at Brentford, 1994-95 season, when we got to Wembley and beat Bristol Rovers. But the second leg, we were drawing 1-1 at our place. Chris Billy scored, and then the second leg we were 1-0 down. Then I was lucky enough to score the goal just before half time to make it 1-1. And then that game that night had everything. It were end to end, chances, keepers made brilliant saves. Our keeper were pulling out saves. There were chances missed. Tackles were flying in. It was a fantastic atmosphere, and got to penalties. And that when Darren Bullock scored the winning penalty to send us to Wembley. And obviously we got promoted that season. But that night, it's something you remember, and we didn't really give ourselves much chance when we went down there. We'd hoped we'd beat them, but if we were being honest, everybody on that coach probably thought we were struggling. Brentford were a good side, especially at their place, and we definitely needed. We could have done with a goal, at least one goal up before going down there. But because we were level, we thought it's going to be tough for us. So we I wouldn't say we counted ourselves out already, but we knew it was going to be a tough game. So for us to get through that, and yeah, the atmosphere, the fans, is like two tiers at Brentford, and all our fans were behind the goal, and they were magnificent that night. And the singing, and they'd have still been there now if they hadn't closed the stadium. And then the coach trip going home, brilliant. And then there was a nightclub called Johnny's, which obviously by the time we got home, it was a Tuesday night, it was closed. But Johnny Marsden, he opened it up for us, even though they were just us in. And I think we left about 9-10 o'clock that next morning. So we had a fantastic night. And yeah, that stands out as one of my greatest memories. And then obviously as a supporter, got to be the playoff final. The championship playoff final with Chris Schindler scoring the final penalty. What a get! Obviously the game worked great. Reading, well, 0-0. It was a poor game actually, and obviously Izzy Brown missed that chance early on, and if he'd have scored that, it might have been a completely different game. But they're always cagey games, but just seeing all them Huddersfield Town fans and seeing, and the lads, the pressure on them lads taking the penalties, both sides. Anybody who takes a penalty, I just admire them. And for us to miss that penalty when Hef missed it, but then still have the character for Naki, Aramoy, and then Chris Schindler to score the winning penalty, were unbelievable. And see the Huddersfield fans, what it meant to them, and also what it meant to Dean Oil. Dean had put 10 years of his life into that club, and for him to have taken the club from where it started to get us in the Premier League were an unbelievable journey. And for the fans, Dean, the players, what a moment to share. And again, I'm sure you'll never forget that, Ryan. And I never thought, I've got to admit, I never thought I'd see Huddersfield in the Premier League for a long, long time. But under David Wagner, what a job he did to do what they did was a massive achievement.
Yeah, definitely will always live with me. My best memories, and I don't know if you can see, but above me I've got Schindler winning penalty.
I can see it, right? Yeah, perfect picture that.
So yeah, it always brings a smile onto my face, too. But yeah, that day, yeah, I still couldn't believe it after we scored the winning penalty. It was kind of a surreal moment, but yeah, what a day that was, and yeah, kind of makes me speechless still. So yeah,
and that's what it does to a lot of fans, doesn't it? And when you go out and you're seeing grown men in tears, and that just shows the emotion and what it means to the Huddersfield fans. It does, and you just mention it, and everybody smiles at it because it's a day that we'll never forget.
Definitely. Yeah, it certainly brings back a lot of memories, and like I say, it's a day that we'll never forget. Like I've still got the DVD that I watch over and over again. It never gets boring, of course. And then kind of like, thinking about the Premier League season, that first season with the Premier League, it was kind of still sinking in, if you could say so, with that first match. It was like, yeah, this is actually real. But yeah. Anyway, I'm getting all flustered and speechless. So yeah, let's move on. What's your kind of like your proudest moment as a footballer? Then, like, what do you have a proud moment that you've had throughout your career?
There were quite a few actually. The playoff final against Bristol Rovers, when I was lucky enough to score, we won, and our name player man of the match. So that game couldn't have gone any better for me. Just to score at Wembley, something I dreamt of, and I'd played obviously the year before in the Autoglass, so great experience. But to finally score at Wembley meant a lot. So that has to be one of my proudest moments. Playing for England, I was lucky enough to play for the England under-21s 5 times, and yeah, unfortunately, I never made it to the senior squad. But to play in the under-21s when I was at Huddersfield, when we were then in the 3rd tier, so we're in League One, and I was playing with players like David Beckham, Paul Scholes, Nicky Butt, Phil Neville, Robbie Fowler. So for me to be playing in that team would a massive achievement, and just to be stood there with a national listening to and singing the national anthem next to these absolute massive megastars now. I've got to admit, it did bring a lump to my throat. Thinking this is what I've made it. This is what football's all about. Yeah.
I think I'm going to ask this question about what Alfie's just asked. I think he means, do you have a favourite town player? I mean, I don't know. This question is quite vague, but I'm presuming it means maybe give us a favourite player that you've liked watching this season, and then maybe a favourite town player that maybe should link it to your favourite players that you've played with, and then kind of your best players you've come up against. So yeah,
yeah. No, that's fine. My favourite player this year. It's hard for me to choose, obviously, because I've not met a lot of them. I've not been able to go to the stadium for the year, so I've not met Carlos and a lot of but I'd probably have to say Johnny Ogg or Chris Schindler, because they're the ones that I've known for quite a few years now. So, and I admire them both as footballers, good footballers, but they both wear their heart on the sleeve. They both give 100% every single game, and that's all we ask for as town fans. That's all we ask to see, and you can't ask for any more commitment than Oggy or Chris offer. So it'd have to be them two. Obviously, for the present day, my all-time favourite Huddersfield town player, and you'll never heard of him, Ryan, I don't think, was a gentleman called Peter Fletcher. And Peter Fletcher was in the 79-80 winning side. Well, the Division 4 winners side, and that was my first year that I went to watch Huddersfield. And Peter Fletcher had just come from Manchester United, and I think that night he scored. So my first ever game, Peter Fletcher scored. So I always wanted to be Peter Fletcher. I had a shirt with number 9 on the back, a Huddersfield Town shirt with number 9 on the back. Obviously, didn't have a name on because nobody had names on back then. All my mates used to call me Fletch because I wanted to be Peter Fletcher that much, and I wanted to follow in his footsteps. Obviously, luckily I did. And a few years ago, I'm lucky enough, obviously, what I do to invite quite a few guests back, ex-players, and I managed to invite Peter back, and I was quite shy actually. I was quite starstruck when Peter Fletcher came back, and I was having a good chat with him. So I'd have to say Peter Fletcher was my all-time Huddersfield hero. And then the best player I've played against, that's a tough question because I played against Ruud Gullit down at Chelsea, who'd a couple of years ago just been named FIFA's World Player of the Year. So Ruud Gullit, what a fantastic player. But then you had Vialli and Zola down there. Jaap Stam at Man United, fantastic centre half. But you probably have to say the Arsenal back four. I know it's not just one person, but the Arsenal back four of Tony Adams, Keown, Winterburn, and Dixon. You beat them, which you never did. If you got past them, you still had David Seaman to score past, and they were a fantastic defence. Obviously, they played together for over 10 years, and they knew each other's game in and out, and they didn't need to speak, they didn't need to shout. They just knew if you did a silly run, they'd all be stood up there, they'd all get you offside. And what a great unit, and you can see why they had so much success in them years, because it was difficult to score, and when you're not conceding goals, especially when you've got Bergkamp, Overmars, Anelka, Henry up there, it was obvious that's why they did so well. So for me to play against the Arsenal back four was a big honour, but it was tough as well. It was difficult to play against them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm just wondering, did you have a favourite manager that you played under that you really enjoyed? Or was your manager that you came across in your career? You got on with them anyway. I'm just wondering, did you have a favourite? Manager?
I did have a favourite manager. Yes, I did. Yeah. And if Peter Jackson's listening to this, Jacko is my number 2 favourite manager. Even though I played with Jacko, and obviously he managed me and did an absolute fantastic job for the football club. And we always have a little joke, and he's always asked, "Who's your favourite manager?" And my favourite manager is Neil Warnock. Neil, love Neil. What he did, he really started my career off, and what he did for my career, I can't thank him enough. And we had such a fantastic time. Obviously, we got to Wembley twice, got in obviously won the playoff final. But then 2.5-3 years under him, we had a lot of fun. The players he brought in, the likes of Darren Bullock, Ian Dunn, Ronnie Jepson, Pat Scully, Lee Sinner, Lee Duxbury, Paul Reed, Chris Billy. You can name them all. And we had a fantastic time. We really did. We played hard on the pitch. We were a tough team, but together we were all together. Back then we all liked to drink. We all went out together, and we went out together as a team. And on that pitch, we were there as a team as well, and everybody helped each other out. And that was because of Neil Warnock. Great. I wouldn't say he was the best coach, but man manager, motivator, second to none. And I say that's why he's got results everywhere he's gone. You look at his record, and I think it's only Leeds that he's not managed to get a promotion with or failed. So, which talking to him, he could never understand why that was. But anywhere else, he's just got results, and he is a fantastic manager.
Yeah, his managerial career's lasted a long time, obviously, because he's still in the game now, isn't he? So he's doing really well for himself still. So, yeah, I'm going to admit that that's a good choice to have, because, like I say, seeing his career, and he's really. It may not be the best football, but he still gets results, like you say. So, yeah,
it does. And I think a lot of people always say we're long ball and that, and he's not total football. He's not passing it from the back like Carlos does, obviously. completely different ethos to Carlos, but he likes to play football in the other team's half, which he says the further the ball's away from his goal, the less chance of us conceding a goal. That was his theory and that was his motto. So you can play all your football in the opposition's half, and if you lose it, I don't mind, but you don't ever lose the ball in your own half. And that was his theory, and he'll still be saying that today. So it's just way of how and it works. It works for him. It really does.
Yeah, he sets out his team to be really organised for sure. So really respect the guy for sure. Right, let's just finish on a few questions, then we'll move on to. Like I say, I've always got loads of questions, and the viewers have got loads.
I know you always have, Ryan. Always.
What was Booby's favourite goal you scored? I'm presuming you have quite a few, to be honest with you, the amount of goals that you scored. But yeah,
I've got a few, and every single one's my favourite. There's nothing like scoring a goal as a striker. The feeling that when you put that ball in the back of that, if it's a 25-yarder top corner or a 1-yard tapping, you still get exactly the same feeling. That it's you can't describe it. It's just the adrenaline that just goes through your body. It's brilliant. But yeah, I did have a DVD out which would give me 100 best goals, and I had to put in my favourite goal was playing Rotherham, where it was about 22-yard volley into the top corner. And the reason why we chose that was because we had proper TV coverage for that one, so we could show it in my DVD. But the most favourite goal, we played down at Cambridge on the Tuesday night after the Autoglass final. We obviously played on the Sunday against Swansea, and Neil Warnock and all the lads, we wanted to celebrate Sunday night, win, lose or draw. We wanted to have a good night that Sunday, so we tried to get the Cambridge game to move to the Wednesday, just so we'd have like a little bit of time to recover from Sunday night. And Cambridge wouldn't, so because they knew, well, if they're having a good night Sunday, they're not going to be training Monday, and then they're not going to be in much use Tuesday. So they wouldn't change it. So Warnock were absolute furious. And we went down there, and there was no way he wanted to lose. For what they did, not to help us out. I've not seen it for a game that didn't really have a lot riding on it, because we're nearly the end of the season anyway. And we won 5-4. Phil Starbuck scored a hat trick, and I think I scored either the second goal or the third goal. And problem is there's no TV coverage apart from when I'm scoring the goal. Back then there was just a camera stuck for one penalty area and a camera for the other, just so they get the goals. And I collected the ball just on the halfway line down the left, and I beat about 4 or 5 players, and then I cut inside and curled it into the far corner, and it stuck in the stanchion. And you can see me curling it and it's sticking in the stanchion, but it didn't show me probably 25-yard run, 30-yard run past 4 or 5 players. And the best thing is I can make that up. Nobody can like say I didn't, because nobody can see it. I might be, over the years, it might be getting a bit longer than that, but in my head, I collected the ball on the halfway line, beat 5 players, and stuck it into the stanchion. So that is my all-time favourite goal. It was 5-4, and I think it was in 1994. I think it was.
Nice. Last question from the viewers here. What season do you think was the best town team that you've played in? That's a good question.
Ooh, that is a good question, because I played in quite a lot of good teams. Probably. Oof. Like there were a lot of different times. Like under Jacko, he brought in, obviously he had no players, but he brought in Nathan Clark, John Worthington, Andy Holsworth, Anthony Lloyd, Adnan Ahmed, John McAleski, David Murphy, Michael Collins, Phil Senior, all them young lads coming through the academy. Jacko brought them up, and we had nothing. And then he brought in players like Hughes, Effie Sodje, Yates, Steve Yates, just thinking of Martin Booty. So he built a team with no money from juniors and that. And what we did for us to get promoted at Cardiff was a massive achievement. And you look back and you think that from what we did, we started in absolute nothing. that really was a big season and a good achievement. Obviously, Pavel Abbott, he brought in Pavel Abbott, one of the best strikers I played with. But then you look at when I was there, when Lou Macari, where you get Kenny Irons, there were Chris Luketti, Clyde Vinard were there, a lot of Martin Smith, fantastic players. But I'd still have to say, and I'd have to go about the team under Neil Warnock. That has to be, because that's the team I love. That's the team that really changed my career and started my career. So I'd have to say that team, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. I want to touch upon the town fans now, and obviously, when you heard your name being sung in the stadium, and it still gets sung when we're allowed beforehand. It was still getting sung quite, before, when we're able to go into the stadium, of course. What was it like hearing what is it like today hearing fans singing your name kind of thing? It must be an amazing feeling.
Absolute brilliant, Ryan. It is. Yeah, it is. It's no better feeling. I've got to admit, it is now a lot, not embarrassing for me as much, but when I'm now at the stage and if I'm there with my son, who's an 18-year-old lad, and all the town fans are chanting my name, he gets a little bit embarrassing because he goes in the south stand, so he sings. At all matches he loves the south stand and he loves singing, but I don't think he'd ever sing my name and then if we go away and I'm with him, I think he feels a little bit embarrassed. And my daughter, if she's ever there, she's absolute horrified, and the fans are singing my name because to her I'm an embarrassing dad. I'm just and for fans to be singing my name is even more embarrassing. She's 14-year-old and she's a typical teenager. So, but the fans have been absolutely brilliant to me all my career, and I don't think they realise how important and the impact they give to a player and the confidence they give to a player when they get behind them and they encourage them, and you hear your name getting sung, especially by all three sides of the stadium. It does, it really. And there's times where you're having a bad game and you can't do anything wrong, right, and the fans are still singing your name, and you're thinking they still believe in you, and the lift that you get. The fact and they started it probably maybe because I was a local lad. I came up supporting Huddersfield, big Huddersfield fan, that they took me to the heart. Obviously, out that I scored goals as well, but I say I can't thank them enough and say how much of a support and help there was to my career, because if the fans are not behind you, it's tough as a player. If you haven't got the fans backing and they're a little bit critical of you, and you can hear them slagging you off a bit, or even when your names or you do something wrong, they're booing you, and that it's not easy. And players are only human, and sometimes I think fans don't realise how much when they're being critical, it does hurt the player and it affects them. So it's the same way as when they're singing the name and how much it's great for the player. It's complete opposite way when they criticise as well. So, but thankfully, luckily for me, the fans have always been supportive of me, and still to be chanting my name. It's 12 years since I've retired, so for them to and it's funny because you see some of the young kids going to the games now, and they see this old man, and the fans are still chanting their name, and they're thinking, who the hell's he like? You can see them, they're thinking that. But for fans still to hold me in such high regard means the world to me, and it really does. And I'm lucky that it's the club I've supported, it's the club I've loved, and the fans have loved me.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've got, not being biased, but I think we've got the best fans, ever, really, because, the amount of, even in, that Premier League scene when we went up, in the Championship as well, we've always had a great set of local fans, and, they're always backing the team as much as they can. So, yeah, definitely.
That Premier League, the atmosphere in the Premier League were unbelievable. And you talk to any of the Premier League away supporters or away teams, they couldn't believe what it was like as well. We really did make it a fortress, and it must have been fantastic for the players to play in that, and the support that they felt and they had. Hopefully we can get that back someday, sooner rather than later, because it was magic, wasn't it?
It was magical. Like I said, as a fan as well, it being so, but it gave me goosebumps. So I'm presuming it would give the fan, the players as much, buzz about, when the atmosphere was so electric. But yeah, fingers crossed that we can, get back there one day, like you say, because we're building something new now, and we're going in a new direction. Hopefully, that'll bring success for sure. Last question, and I do promise this last question. Obviously, your last game was against Leyton Orient, where you scored to make 150 goals for the club, which put you into third in the all-time goal scoring charts, which almost, put you like, it was quite close to number, who was the where I've got this down somewhere. But the number one goal,
George Brown.
Yeah, 159 goals. So my first question is how did it feel knowing you'd be playing for the last game for the club? And obviously you've given us a bit of insight into the overall day as a whole. So that was kind of my second bit that I ended on there. But you already kind of answered. And my final question, and then is: did you ever get tempted to carry on for one more season to get to that number one, number one spot, all-time scorer kind of thing? Because you were only 10 goals away. If you played for another season, I think you would have got that record.
Yeah, do you know what? A lot of people ask me that, Ryan. I've got to admit, when I finished, they said, "Why didn't you carry on? Why didn't you just have one more season?" And then you would have been the all-time top goal scorer. But even to get 10 goals in a season is not easy, especially at my age then. And my bones, my body had gone. And I was lucky. I just had a major back operation in probably, I think it was like November, December time, and I went out for about 3 months. So for me, just to get back playing them last three months of the season was something I was very lucky at because I thought my career was probably going to finish understand turn, and which it would have been, obviously it'd have been fine, but then I got back for them last 10 games, and I think I scored about 7 or 8 goals in that last run to make 150. But I don't even think my body would have continued another season, and to get you still have had to be in not peak condition, but I'd still have had to have been in quite good condition to be able to, might not have been played every game, but coming off the bench and that, and it might have been all right for 20 minutes a game, but I knew it wasn't right. It wasn't right for me just to go on because I've got a chance of beating the all-time record. And it's funny, like I said, it would have really, I couldn't have finished my career any better scoring 150th. But if I'd have carried on that next year, and it was in a state, I was taking painkillers, I was taking anti-inflammatories just to get through games. And then if I carried on and I was struggling and I played poorly, and that's what the fans would have remembered me for. And now I didn't want that. I finished on a high. I couldn't have finished any better than I did. And if I'd have carried on one more season, then I could have completely ruined that. So no, I'm very happy. I'm the highest living all-time goal scorer, and hopefully that'll continue for a long time to come.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a truly special career that you had, and obviously, you did so much for the football club. So, like I said, that you really are a club legend for sure. And like I said, it was great to witness your talent. At least at some point in your career. Admittedly a bit, towards the end of your career, but I still managed to see you live, which meant a lot to me for sure, knowing what you'd done for the club previously. So yeah, I think that is about as much questions I'm going to ask. But before you go, we're just going to touch upon the season so far, and just maybe just have a quick chat about that before we finish. So we've won 11, drawn 9, lost 17, and we've got a minus 11 goal difference at the minute. I think it's what have your thoughts been in the season overall? Obviously, we've had a lot of injuries. That really halted our season. If you remember when Carlos came and he came in, and he really did make an impact straight away. And obviously, we were quite on good form. And obviously, the injuries started to build up, and it really affected the team performance. admittedly, because when you not got your best players on the pitch, ultimately the results you're gonna struggle. What have your thoughts been on the overall season so far?
I think you've answered it there, Ryan. I think where you sum it up. Then yeah. Obviously, it's a pity none of us have seen Carlos being able to be at the stadium and welcome Carlos to the club. None of us have been able to do that, unfortunately. And I've got to admit, when he came in, I thought he'd have a tough job. I saw how the season finished last season, and I thought this is not going to be easy. It's going to be a tough job for him, and it's going to be a tough season for us. And to be fair to him, I liked the signings he made in the summer. Thought he made some good signings. I like the way we were playing, and up to December, it couldn't have gone any better. Yeah, we made a few mistakes and we lost some games that we shouldn't have done, but we're playing entertaining football, scoring goals, conceding, and to be fair, that didn't bother me, because for the last 2 seasons we've not seen it. I think it would be a bit of boring football where we weren't scoring any goals. We might not be conceding many either, but it brought the entertainment back, and until December it was good to watch. Then, as you say, the injuries kicked in, and I don't care what anybody says, when you're losing 10 of your first team players out injured, your main players, no team can survive that. No team can bring more and more players in. They just can't do it unless you're a Premier League side, and even they don't bring the players that to replace the ones that are injured. They just can't, because they're your best players who'll start. So after Christmas, because I was thinking, well, before the injuries kicked in, if we can have a good January, then we could aim for playoffs here. We could be pushing for the playoffs. And obviously the injuries kicked in, and they really have taken the toll. I think they lost confidence as well. I think obviously when you get into a run and you're losing games, it's difficult for you. Sometimes you're thinking, how can we get out of this run? And when you see your senior players and your better players are all injured, we had a young side there, and we didn't have a lot of leaders on. I know Oggy were there, but Oggy were in and out with injuries as well. So, and Fraser Campbell, one of the senior players, but they needed help with that. So we didn't look to have many leaders either on the pitch when we're going through a bad spell. But it looks like we've had this break now. I thought it was important to get 5 points out of this last. It's 6, 2 or 3, and 6 points out of his last 4 games. It was important not to lose against Sheffield Wednesday, especially when we're in it. We're going to have a 17-day break as well, and especially when we've got Norwich and Brentford coming up this weekend. So, but hopefully this week I'll see some of the players back fit. I don't think we'll see all of them, but if we can get some back, obviously we've got another new signing. So I'll be interested to see how this lad does. I'm not going to try and pronounce his name because I'll probably get that wrong. That's it. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a tough end to the season. I think we need definitely another win, 2 wins. I'd see us safe, definitely. But I'm feeling confident, and then I'm looking forward to next season. Obviously, we're all back in the stadium. Carlos will have another pre-season under his belt. I'm sure he'll bring in a few more players, and I'm really looking forward to next season because I think it will be a positive one.
Yeah, it'll be great to see, be in the stadium with Carlos, because like I say, it's been a shame that we haven't been able to, watch the team for so long, and I've missed it so much, like I say. But you say the tough games that are coming up this week, obviously with Brentford on Saturday. You never know, really, do you? We could surprise a few, and we did surprise Swansea. We
did, and Brentford will be coming to Huddersfield thinking that they need 3 points. Where they are in the league, they need to get 3 points on Saturday. So it's going to be an open game, and we do play better when the game's open like that. So it would surprise me if we got something from Saturday's game. I'm looking forward to it.
Like I said, it is a big summer ahead because, like I said, there's so many players out of contract as well, and interesting to see who stays and who goes, but also who we bring in as well. Because, like I said, a pre-season under Carlos's belt will help him massively, I believe, as well, and it'll start to feel more his own team kind of thing, if you could say so. But yeah. hopefully we can finish the season strongly, and get safe as soon as possible, because the points that we've got is kind of like, feels like we're kind of safe, but we're not fully safe. So it's a bit we just need to pick up a few more wins. But do you think we'll be okay this season, Andy? I want a bit of optimism to finish this. Do you think
Ryan, don't you worry, we'll be absolutely fine this season. We'll be all. They'll get enough points with about 4 games to go, and we'll be all on it. We'll be all looking forward to next season. Then we'll be all preparing for that. Trust me.
Happy days. I can't wait to get back into the stadium, like you say, though, and it'll be amazing when we can do that. So yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Andy, so much for joining us this evening. I really do appreciate it. You know how much it means to me, and thank you to everybody that's tuned in. So yeah, we'll see you next week, next Monday at 6 p.m, where there will be another episode of the Proud Terriers Weekly Show, where we will review the Brentford game. Thank you so much. Thank you.